Unstoppable Men, Living by the Code in the Core 4. Today's edition on episode 4 is about family and the wife, whom I've been together with Rhonda for 27 years. 27 years, I'm 50 years old. And what is Unstoppable Men? It's a movement for men who refuse to play small in their fitness, their family, their finances, and their faith. So what I want to share today was actually back in the USA. It's 34 years anniversary since my father's passing. He died of AIDS. And I'm bringing this into family because this is what, I want to honor my father, because him passing away at that age, it changed the whole trajectory of not only my life, but my future wife, and now my daughter, who's 18 years old. And I want to rewind back to that because it's been on my heart these last few days. Whenever May 16th comes around, I get this feeling, and I really kind of sit back and reflect on life, because we're never guaranteed another day in our life. And it's so easy to say that, but when you really put it, if you knew it, what would the things that you'd be doing differently? If you, let's say you knew that you had only 2 or 3 years left, would you still be hanging around the same people, still working on the same projects? Would you still be doing the things that you're doing, or are you putting them off, like how you put off your wife, your family for business? This is a deep one, because right now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm in Bali, Indonesia. I'm on the other side of the world from my wife. My wife and my daughter, they decided after 10 years living in Bali that my wife's like, I just don't want to live in Bali right anymore. It's too hot, and I want to be back in the USA with clients. I want to be there. Hanalei, she's going to be doing classes, her photography, business. She's at 18 years old. And they asked me, we had a big family meeting back in October. And she's like, we're going to move back to the US. Are you coming? And I said, no. And it was one of those big things to where you actually, these defining moments to making a stand for what you truly want. And my wife and my daughter, they made a stand for what they wanted. And I also made a stand not only for myself, but then also how can we as a family come together tighter than ever, even if half the time I'm spending on the opposite side of the world. So I'm going to dig into this on what living by the code, the core 4, and just to let you know by what the core 4 is. The core 4 is made up into 4 quadrants. And I've learned this. I've been part of the Wake Up Warrior program for solidly for the last 2.5 years, and kind of tiptoed it in it about 5-6 years ago. And it was, how can I be a better man, better version of myself, better husband, better father? I just started reading the Bible. Faith is another dimension. So you got your family here, right? And this is including your partner, your wife, your kids. Then you got faith, which is God. I just started reading the Bible at 50 years old. I've been reading it every single day for 6 months. Who would ever know? But this is just kind of the calling that happens. And it happens is when you sometimes have to kill off your old version of yourself to become this new version. The other thing of the core 4 is finances, which is business. And the last thing is fitness, your body. And I had, if you want to go back to episode, one of the other 2 is, if you don't have your body, I'm actually 50 years old and I'm the strongest I've ever been, at least on bench press and certain things, than I was when I was 20 years old. But I made a decision that at 50 years old, do I want to just start using the excuse that maybe I'm too old for this, or maybe I can't do this? And you start letting life you start going with it. And I refuse to play that. I refuse to play small in all 4 core areas. With my fitness, I've gained 33 pounds of muscle in the last few years, strongest I've ever been. one of my biggest passions is surfing. If I can't surf big waves, then might as well put me 6 feet under. There's going to be a time that it comes to it, but not yet. I got many years left to live. And having that health and the fitness, it has been the rock that if you don't have that, and I've been down for the count with some nasty virus for the last 2.5 weeks, and it's brought me to my knees. I haven't been posting much. I've been kind of hiding, reclusing, because as a man, I'm like, I can't produce. I'm not producing, on the business side, business obligations that I've made. And it's like my body shut down. But what it did, this is probably one of the biggest things, is that it had me really reflect on what I can do and not control. It's a power versus force. So I'm going to share more of that later on, but let me get down to it. The thing, because today I'm reflecting on it. May 16th, my father died of AIDS when I was 16 years old. But here's the beautiful point, and I think this is so good for everyone. I also I had a video that I pulled up from 8 years ago that I shot in Uluwatu. It was about taking chances in life, and what if you had an expiration date? We all have that expiration date, but it's putting it at a certain thing of how you're actually going to do things now and not putting things off for the future, because that future may never happen. I've had friends, close friends, family that has died just recently that is younger than me. And you just have to put a perspective on, like, life is a gift. So treat it as that way, but to live it to the fullest, because God wanted to make us abundant. But if we're not doing the things, and this is me working on myself, and the reason that I was part of Warrior was to be a better version of myself in all 4 core areas, and living by the code of being real, raw, relevant, and sharing results. So, and if you want more information, comment, send me a DM. This is a thing that I've been putting off on Unstoppable Men. I've been part of the men's groups, and it's like God keeps on speaking to me when I've been reading. I'm going to show you my trusty Bible that I picked up on Tokopedia here in Indonesia, the only Bible that was available for like $3. Got it here, but I read it every single day, journal on it, on what I read, what I should start doing, what I should stop doing, how am I going to track that, what is the story that I have to create for myself in order to achieve these things. So the combination of all 4 of these things and living it every single day, I'm going to go through my method of what I do by the time I wake up into the time that right now it's in like almost 2:00 in the afternoon here on Saturday. But I'm sharing this because this is one of the things that I'm getting this calling, that there are men out there that are lost. I've been lost. I'm still lost in certain ways. But what happens is when I don't follow the core 4 and live by the code, that's what sets me off. And it's these last 2.5 weeks of having this virus and being down for the count, I just couldn't function. I couldn't physically work out very much, like at all. I couldn't function as a producer, as a man. And it got me into some dark spaces. But what it did was it had me realize what really matters and what are the things that you can do to help bring up people on your team and work and not take everything on yourself and having that load of the world on you. So I'm going to go back to my father passing away from AIDS from 34 years ago. It's a long time ago. But what it did, from the age of 11 is when my dad realized that he contracted AIDS. And back then it was a death sentence, right? Not like this COVID or anything like that. This was pretty much a death sentence for most people. And what I got to see, not by what my dad told me, but what his actions were. And his actions were, he was like, he never said this to me, but there was a switch in him. And I saw it at this age to where all the things that mattered or were problems or challenges simply was like, boop, I know I'm going to die. What am I going to do? And I remember him going, hey, to my brother and my sister. My sister's 7 years older than me. My brother's 4 years older than me. He goes, who wants to go to Europe? And he started taking us trips around the world. And I grew up in a town of 2,000 people in the cornfields of Cambridge, Illinois. Beautiful place, beautiful people. You didn't leave your little village. And most of the people that grew up there, many of them still live there, and they're beautiful people. But what my father saw was like, and this is before the internet. This is before, if you wanted to go see what Egypt or the pyramids were, you may catch something on, I don't even, like on one of those shows. There was no Discovery channels probably back then. In school, seeing a video, he's like, who wants to go see this? He wanted us to experience the world with our eyes and not from a textbook. And so I got to travel, fortunately, with him. He didn't know how long he was going to live, but I got to travel with him for 5 years, going to Africa, going to Europe, brother's seen South America, traveling all around the world. And it was this experience that never left me. And even at this age of 50 years old. And what happened during this time, I was like, there's a bigger world out there. And there's more to see and do and also contribute to the world. It's kind of a heavy one every time, even though it's been so long, and the things that I regret was that I never got to share like some of these moments with him, because maybe I was young and he wanted to hold them back, but he never complained. Even when he was going in and out of the hospital, I saw the man go from 200 pounds to below 100 pounds before he passed away, but he never complained. And he always saw the world as a beautiful place, and he wanted us to explore it. And what that did, it changed the trajectory of my life to where when I went to University of Illinois and I was studying engineering, and it was like 40,000 people, Big Ten football, fighting Illini. It was just like the most incredible experience. But what I saw was like, there's got to be something more. When you have it all, and I've had a lot of money and I've had no money, and I've had this multiple times, but sometimes it's not when you have the most that you have the most rewarding experiences of life. I love the good things. I love to travel, and it all costs money. And that's part of being, producing revenue and financially and having a business that you have to produce. That's part of the core four. But one thing I saw was that there's got to be something more. And I went traveling to Australia when I was 20 years old. And that was actually the strongest one I'd ever been. And I just beat this when I was 50. But, when I went, that's where I learned surfing. And these moments, and the reason I'm sharing these things is because when you actually do something out of the norm, I had all my friends say, don't do that. Why are you going to leave on the best years of life? I go, there's got to be something more. And if I didn't take that one chance, I would have never met my second love of my life, which I call surfing. And this is one of the major reasons that I told my wife and my daughter that I'm not going to live in the U.S. full time. I'm going to continue to stay here. I also have some obligations, on different projects that I have here in Bali. We have a couple of villas, and I have a business partner that I'm like, I'm going to be working with you. And I made a commitment, but I also made a commitment to myself and not caving in just to the family. And I was like, how can we live our best life, even if we're on the opposite sides of the world? So to wrap it up with my dad, I'm going to share a story from my wife, and I call it the $5 burrito story. And the $5 burrito story was when the first fight that I ever had with my wife that I can recall. And this is after we'd been together for nearly 8 years. We're married. Hanalei was just 1 year old, or not even 1 year old. And we're at the beach in San Diego where we just realized we've lost everything. We had 5 different houses. We put development. This is back in 06, 07, 08. So it was probably 07. So if you guys can remember from the financial crisis, it wiped us out. We made deals and developments with a not so good partner. Probably didn't do all of our due diligence. Other people were doing it. And it humbled us, brought us to our knees, lost everything financially. And we're at a point in our life. And this is that expiration date moment. And I wanted you to think about some of these, and you could be going through this right now, because there's a lot of shit that's happening around the world. And how do we take care of it? We take care of it with ourselves, in our family, in our household, first and foremost. Doesn't matter who's the president, who's this, and you can complain on this, you can complain on Trump, Elon Musk, Kamala, Biden. It doesn't fucking matter. You have to take care of your household first and foremost. And when you take care of your household, you have to take care of yourself. You can't put an oxygen mask on. It's like you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can actually start putting it on others. At least that's what I say. I haven't been in a burning plane going down, but that's the case. And so to tie it into with my family, with my wife, when we realized this $5 burrito, she looks at me and she goes, we just had a $35 non-sufficient fund fee. And it was from Fred's Burritos. I bought a $5 burrito and I didn't have enough in my debit account. And how funny is that? When you don't have enough money in your account, they charge you $35. It's like, wow, that makes sense. So it was like a $40 burrito. But it was the first time that we actually had a real fight. And she's like, what the fuck are we going to do? What are we going to do? Be the man. And I didn't know. We were in lawyers, lawsuits, hundreds of thousands in lawyers. And I didn't like, how do we get out of this? But that was a moment to where we're like, okay, we got a freaking big problem here. What are we going to do? And there's no way of getting out of this. And my wife, she looks at me and she goes, we're never guaranteed, or she says, I vowed never to put my daughter and my future children in daycare. She says, I'm not going back and getting my job. We had already learned how to start marketing online, start operating in digital marketing. And I looked at her and I just thought of my dad. And I said, you know what? We're never guaranteed another day in our life. And it was from this book, The 4-Hour Work Week, that was written by Tim Ferriss back probably 20 years ago. And there was this one chapter called The Mini Retirement. Now I'm planting these seeds because there's moments that you get signals from God. Call it what you want, voice, call it, the universe, call it whatever. But I was riding my bike, like lost, confused, dealing with lawyers, like there's no way to get out of it. And he goes like, in this chapter, it just popped up onto my iPhone. Think about it way in the day. And it starts playing this. I've already listened to it a few times, but I dismissed it. And it was about living I think it's called the mini retirement. The whole essential behind it was actually having a business and being able to operate it anywhere you want. And I was like, what if we just got rid of everything that we have? We're never guaranteed another day in our life. This internet thing is not going anywhere that I see. It's not a fad. Why don't we go enjoy life, show our daughter what the world looks like with her own eyes versus going to school? So we made this decision when she was 1 year old, June 5th, 2008, 2 days after my wife's birthday. So it's my birthday coming up in less than 2 weeks. I'm going back to the US, and for my wife's birthday, I'm going to be there for Gemini season. So if you're back in the USA, I'll be there for the whole month of June. Love to see you there. But we made a declaration saying let's go travel the world because we're never guaranteed another day in our life. And this was at one of the hardest moments. Had a beautiful house up in like La Jolla, Bird Rock, North PB area. We built it for our daughters, built it for us. We're given a choice of like, you know what? Life is about experiences. And we took something that was the absolute worst thing, my father passing away, but that was the biggest blessing. So what I want to share today is that some of your biggest horrible things in life can turn out to be your biggest assets in life. So my father passing away back when I was 16 years old, he showed me that I have to live today. And what that did for me, my wife now, and my daughter, because this is now it's in our DNA, is that we have to appreciate and live today and live it to the fullest. Now, how do we do that? It's easier said than done, right? I'm going to get through that on the core 4 and living by the code and the things that I do specifically for my wife. So on the core 4, it's the family, your wife, right? And it's think about a bank. You can't just go to a bank and say, hey, Wells Fargo, give me $1 million. Well, did you put $1 million in? No, they're not going to give you the money. So you have to make daily deposits into the account. And one of the things that we have, I'm going to show you this. It's in my phone here. And this is how I keep track. I have a track. It's in a Warrior app. It's called the Core 4. And I tick these little boxes off that I'm accomplishing every single day. And when I'm not doing this, I know I'm not on track. But now it's just part of who I am, so I don't even have to think about it. You can see it here. You got fitness, meditation. You got fuel. You got memoirs. You got person 1, person 2, discover and declare. So part of this with the family is the memoirs and the person 1, person 2. And what that means is putting a deposit. So how do I put a deposit into my wife's account? One of the things that I started doing back about 10 years ago was from another book. And it's this thing of gratitude. And I started writing to my wife every single day for the last probably 8 to 9 years. And I write in this book about how I honor, I love, I respect her. And it's something about the day. It takes me about like maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, if that. She doesn't even see it because she's in LA right now. But this is me. It's like giving gifts. You have to, some of the best things that you get is actually the act of giving. And so this is like me giving. So when my wife's here or when I'm back in LA, she reads it. Not every day. I share it with her sometimes. But I'm putting daily deposits. Another thing that I do, gentlemen, this is so, if you take anything from this, and ladies, you can take this away as well. I go surfing pretty much every day, or I go to the gym. The beautiful thing about Bali is that there's flowers everywhere. The simple act while I'm walking back is I pick a flower for my wife, and now I actually pick one for my daughter, and I give it to them every day. Well, I'm in Bali, they're in LA. I take a picture, I send it to them, and I just said, have a beautiful day. I love you both. These are putting the deposits into my family's account with my wife. Another thing that I do on a weekly basis, not when I'm on the other side of the world, is a date night. Date night where it's nobody else, me and her, and we can talk. We talk about business. We've been working, Rhonda was in the corporate world for about 10 years. I was in it for 10 years. I was a robotic engineer. But we talk about our business from Unstoppable Branding Agency, the projects I'm working here in Bali. But we have real conversations, and it's with no one else, putting the phone down. And these are the things that puts the deposits into the account. You make the time. And if you say you don't have time, what that means is that you don't value that certain aspect. And so, for instance, if you're saying, man, I wish I could work out, I could train, and you don't do it, it's just that you don't value that. Once it becomes a part of your values, you're going to do that. So like, for instance, on my Instagram, I have one of my Instagram accounts. I said, I'm going to create something that nobody has to tell me to do it. It's not about making money, yet it has made me money because I don't have to. It's like get up in the morning and go check the surf. So I called myself, we're the Unstoppable Family. I put the Unstoppable Surfers because I'm going to share things about the connections with what one of my true passions are. And it's also connecting all four cores. So that's what my message is. Something I don't have to think about. It's actually something who I am. And having my body and working out, that's something what I do. And to combine it with my wife, one of the things that's been really powerful for us is fucking colliding. Now you're gonna probably like, what is that all about? It's having hard conversations with your significant other, things that you put off and you're like, you just kind of sweep it under the rug and maybe hope that a couple weeks from now that it's just going to go away. I've probably collided with my wife in the last 3 or 4 years on a hardcore level, yet at the same time, when we speak our truth, our wants, and set boundaries, we respect each other and we can come back together, and it makes the relationship extremely healthy. This is something that I didn't know of before, and especially back in the younger years, it's like you didn't want to fight. I literally probably don't think we had a fight for 8 years, but we built up rage, we built up resentment. And when you don't actually have hard conversations, you're going to build up stories, resentment, and then there's going to be a rage, and it's like, I want a divorce. There's been many times that it's probably been on the table that there could have been a divorce with my wife and I. But then you got to come back to the question of, do we love each other? Can we get through this? Will it make us stronger? And I believe 27 years together, having these hard moments, tough moments that usually break people are usually the ones that create the strongest bond. And I can say that I'm more in love with my wife than I ever have been, even when I'm on the other side of the world. And what's happened by me making this decision to be on the other side, I'm practicing my core 4 every day. So one of the things that I've shared is setting the time for yourself in the morning to take care of yourself, because how are you supposed to take care of anybody else if you can't take care of yourself first and foremost? And one of the things, when I wake up, let the dogs out, I go work out or go surf. This is the surf method. I said it before, but I'm going to repeat it here. And it's, since I'm a surfer, SURF. So take this. This is going to be very, very easy for you and something that you can start applying for your day tomorrow. The S is setting up your day for success, and that's with exercising, getting the body moving. Could be surfing, could be training, could be doing some yoga. The U is uncover, discover, and declare. And what that means is the uncover is listening to something or reading a book. So one of the things I do every day, I'm uncovering, I'm discovering, and then I'm declaring the Bible, listening to an audiobook, listening to a podcast. But what happens is when you read it, you're discovering something and then you're declaring it. You're declaring it in A. You can be talking to clients. You can be talking to, let's say, sending a broadcast out email, sending a Facebook live of what you just learned, something to where you apply in your marketing, something that you're going to actually take action on that day. And so I was listening to one of the Warrior Council calls this morning while I went to go surf, and then I go to the sauna afterwards. And then I'm listening and I'm like, what I'm applying to you is I'm actually declaring it to you on the core four with the family. These are my daily things. The next thing on the SURF, revenue generating activities. And it's asking yourself, am I busy or I'm actually doing the things that bring revenue to our business? And as a business owner, this is pretty easy. It's like making content, creating leads, having them go through a sales process, closing sales, bringing revenue. If you're an employee, are the things you're doing busy work, and are they easy, or are they actually adding value to the company that will generate revenue? Think about how many times people ask you, is like, how are things going? It's like, busy. I think one of the biggest things that I learned over these 2.5 weeks of being down for the count of the virus, I got to have super focused time because I knew that I wasn't going to have many hours in the day to actually produce. So I had to be able to leverage our team members, realizing what am I doing right now? Is it actually bringing something to the bottom line, or am I just freaking doing stuff that probably doesn't matter? You have to get focused. And I have another thing, and this is going to be another call that I can have with you guys, especially when I'm back in the US. I'm going to have a thing on doing a fact map and being able to share you some of these tools that I use and putting them into practice, not just talking about them, but actually putting them into practice on your unstoppable goals for a year out, backing it down for quarterly missions, weekly fires, which is what am I going to do this week? And then the daily actions. So I'm going to be able to share that. If you want to know more, send me a DM. Put it in the comments below, because I'm going to be having these on a weekly call, probably going to a bi-weekly. But this is not for anybody. It's for the people that want to take action. And I'm only working with men. So anyway, you hit me back. You let me know. I want to close this on the relationship and the connection. I've went through the daily deposits. I've went through the daily, and then also another way of doing a daily deposit, just sending a video or a voice note on something that you appreciate. And you can get so caught up on just doing business to what I've realized that business usually doesn't work when I'm not connecting on all cylinders with my wife. Lo and behold, you can work in your business all day and be busy as fuck. But if I don't have that connection with my queen and I'm taking charge on that, shit's not working. Same thing with my body. When I'm not healthy and physically working out and maintaining that, the other ones, that's why it's the core four, and they all hold each other up. And one starts to go down, it's going to affect every single one of them. The last piece, and this is the piece that I haven't gotten until when I was 50 years old, my connection with God. And if you're listening to this, if I was listening to myself 8 months ago and saying I'd be reading the Bible every single day, I said, you're nuts. I've always thought of myself as a spiritual person. But then I was realizing that there's some high-powered men, individuals, not just men, and they're powerful in their business. They're powerful in their relationship. They're powerful with their body. And they're doing this. And I'm like, what's it going to hurt? Hasn't hurt anything at all. It's actually made me a stronger man of faith, of like, there's things that you can't. When things are happening, I start realizing that God is sending me different people in my life, different things. And when you're so head down and just doing busy work, you can't see these signs. And it's taken me back to where it's like, there's a reason that this person just sent me a text message 2 years out of the blue. There's a reason I met this person at the airport. The reason why I got invited to this mastermind group. There's a reason why this happened. And it's taking note, taking action. It's not wasting time. But when you start having the open of like life is happening and it's happening for and with you, you start opening your eyes to these things. But if you don't have your body right, you don't have your relationship with your wife and your kids right, you don't have that connection with God and your business is crumbling, nothing fucking works. So thank you for joining me on episode 4. Next week, I'm going to hit the last quadrant of the core 4, and that's business. And I'm going to share what my wife and my wife and I, and what we've built, what we're doing, things where we've fallen on our face, things that have worked, and how we've actually had a relationship of 27 years and still working together as a couple. It's fucking tough. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. So if you guys, if there's some couples out there and you're working together, I'm going to stay tuned for this one, because I'm going to be able to share what works, what definitely does not work, and how to have a relationship and still be loving, caring, and intimate with your wife. Because when it comes down to it, that's the most precious thing. And 27 years later, I can say that I'm more in love with my wife than I ever have been. It's kind of crazy. So that's it. I got my rest of my Saturday to where I'm going into my general's tent, doing some marketing, and I'm mapping out what worked this last week. It's called the general's tent, and I do a return a report on what I did in my body, what the results were, what worked, what didn't work, returning a report on my relationship with my wife and my daughter, my business, and then also the connection with God. And I didn't realize that there's comments coming up. I saw you were live. You're amazing. Thank you, Mr. Moody. Beautiful Jonathan. Right moment with my girl for 13 years. It's beautiful comments. Isabella. I didn't even know there was comments. I'm doing the StreamYard and it's syndicating to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you want to know more, man, just send me a DM, put it in the comments. Let me know if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or Facebook, LinkedIn. Where do you connect? But I'm going to be bringing a group together. Not sure if I'm going to be putting it into school or make some recommendations. But I'm going to share more of how you put these tools, because we all need guidance. And a shitty follower is a shitty leader. Stay tuned. Also, my boy Rory and I don't know if you saw the video that I put up on all 3 of these channels, but we're doing a special thing for men. It's going to be 11 of us. End of September. It's not going to be in a mastermind. It's not going to be in a hotel room. It's not going to be one of those things. It's going to be off the matrix and bonding and connecting. And this is one of the last pieces I want to really hit on. No matter how automated we get in this world with AI and the shit is, and also I love it. And you got to be able to utilize it. So it's not a bad thing. It's how you actually operate in that world. But what I've realized over these 50 years, and especially 20 years as an entrepreneur out on our own, outside of a corporate, I don't know, what's it called? A corporate of having a job, the security. There's nothing that ever beats the personal connection and relationships. My wife is just at a board of advisors. It's like a mastermind group for CEOs, founders, tech group, leaders, like people doing amazing shit. And it's a higher caliber. And when you surround yourself, it's like, who are you surrounding yourself with? And you're going to be exactly who you surround yourself with. What is it? The top 5 closest people, you're going to be very much just like them. And what do you choose? Are you choosing to rise or just staying status quo and life is good and it's happening to me? I want to do the most epic shit of my life here in my 50s. And the only way to do that is to do boring daily shit every day. And are you in love with the results? And the way I see it, like especially working out at 50 years old, you're either going to be in pain now or you're going to be in pain later. You get to choose. That's it. Stoppable Men, episode number 4, living by the code in the core 4. This is the edition on family, particularly my wife, and giving blessings to my father who passed away 34 years ago of AIDS. And the blessing behind that was he got to let me know about living with an expiration date. And if you knew what your expiration date was, what would the things you'd be doing today, tomorrow, and for the next year? That's it. Want to know more? You know how to find me. Cheers. And as always, be unstoppable.